Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Greg Gilligan. I'm the Vice President of Operations at RVA757 Connects. Thank you for joining us for this latest of the RVA757 Connects Virtual Innovation Spotlight webinar. We have an exciting program this afternoon. The program is about how to get up to speed on what's happening with the I-64 innovation infrastructure projects. The I-64 Gap project, for instance, and the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel Expansion project. Before we get into the program, just a couple of housekeeping matters. We'll hear from our sponsor in just a moment, Luck Real Estate Ventures. Then we'll give you an update on what's happening with RVA757 Connects. And then we'll get into the topic about the I-64 Gap project and the HRBT project. We'll leave some time for the very end for some questions and answers, and then we'll talk about what's coming up next. We record all of our webinars, so this recording will be available later this afternoon on our website, just as a reminder. You can also share it with others as well. If you have any questions, please use the chat function, and I will get to those questions towards the end of the program. RVA757 Connects is a nonprofit organization, so we rely on donations for our operations. Here is a list of corporate supporters. We appreciate and recognize their support to our organization. One of our corporate supporters and sponsors is Luck Real Estate Ventures, which is a real estate and land development division of the Luck Companies. That's the Goochland County-based firm, which includes Luck Stone, the nation's largest family-owned and operated producer of construction aggregates. Here to tell us more about Luck Real Estate Ventures is John Riley, who was its general manager and has been in that role since October 2022. He oversees all of Luck's real estate portfolio, including acquisitions and sales, entitlements, permitting, and coordination of day-to-day operations. John joined Luck in 2011, and he also serves on our board of directors. So let me stop sharing the screen, and John, will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Greg. Let me share my screen here real quick. Let's do that. All right. Yeah, appreciate it, Greg, and appreciate everybody the opportunity to share a little bit more about Luck Companies and specifically Luck Real Estate Ventures. But as Greg mentioned, Luck Companies is a now 103-year-old family-owned, family-operated business based in Goochland. Got over 1,000 associates, and our footprint covers from Northern Virginia down to Atlanta. We've got our three primary business units, the largest of which is, as Greg mentioned, Luck Stone, which is certainly very applicable to today's topic because we are a major supplier of both of these projects that we'll be talking about today. So it's good timing for us to be sponsoring this. But more specifically, our other two business units are Luck Ecosystems, which Luck Ecosystems is an environmentally focused business that was spurred out of the Luck Stone business a number of years ago, focused on environmental products and projects, things like stream bed restoration, biofiltration, as well as a number of specialty sports products that we produce. And then the group that I lead is our Luck Real Estate Ventures business unit, which we refer to as LREV. What you see here is the current footprint of the organization. As I mentioned, we span from Leesburg in Northern Virginia all the way down to an operation in Atlanta. And we've got about 32 active quarry and distribution yard operations. And how our Luck Real Estate Ventures business fits into that is through that footprint, we've got about 27,000 acres that we own or have operational control of. And what we're focused on is the day-to-day real estate needs of the business. So that top picture you see there is actually a site in Fairfax County that we have ceased mining and started reclamation activities. So we've got a reclamation fill operation there where we're importing clean fill. We maximize the value of our real estate assets, just kind of that middle middle picture that you see there, which is our Toano yard, which is in Williamsburg, which is a lot of the material for the GAP project is being supplied out of that location. But we have some, we had excess real estate there, so we're actually we've got developed a yard there that we're supplying. We're housing customers there and have opportunity to serve, multitude of projects. And then the bottom picture there is our more entrepreneurial real estate side, where we have a number of development projects that we're working on, including the one that's shown there, which is our Nye Village project in Spotsylvania, which is a mixed-use project. And then we've got a number of others, including one that we're working through zoning, which is our Carmel Church project, which is about 1,000-acre industrial park that we're working on in Caroline County. So we kind of handle all the real estate for Luck. Appreciate the opportunity to sponsor this today, and I will turn it back over to Greg.
Great, thanks, John. I appreciate it. That was fascinating always to learn more about what's going on with Luckstone and the Luck Real Estate Ventures. And again, thank you for your financial support to our organization, as well as can you see the screen? As well as Luck's Real Estate Ventures support of our organization, and for you, John, for serving on our board. We appreciate all of that, so thank you. So let me give you a little bit of an update on what's happening with RVA757 Connects. Our mission is to improve the economic success and quality of life of everyone that lives in the Richmond region, which we call RVA, and the Hampton Roads region, which we call 757. We're a coalition of top leaders representing businesses, higher education, and organizations. And we're following a national model where nearby localities collaborate on initiatives that advance both regions. And we're advancing this mega region from the Metro Richmond area to Hampton Roads as the I-64 Innovation Corridor. As you can see, we're pursuing several different priorities. We're helping the I-64 Innovation Corridor become a global internet hub. More on that in just a moment. We're advocating for multi-use trails such as Trail 57 and Hampton Roads, and we're also advocating for improved and increased passenger rail service. You can read more about these initiatives on our website at RVA757Connects.com. One of our priorities is to encourage collaboration and showcase innovation. We're doing that in a couple of ways. One is by hosting these Innovation Spotlight webinars. We'll take off in July and August with our webinars, but we'll be back in September. So mark your calendars for Wednesday, September the 2nd at noon. Be on the lookout for more information on the topic sometime in mid-August. Our top priority is to spearhead efforts to have the I-64 Innovation Corridor designated as a global internet hub. Our plan is a bold and innovative approach to harness once-in-a-generation opportunity to transform the future of the Richmond region and Hampton Roads. In November, we unveiled our leapfrog strategy, which we call the Global Internet Hub Vision 2035. This vision is the future of the I-64 Innovation Corridor. The plan showcases where and how the world's data connects, how it powers up, how it stays safe, how it transforms and benefits everyone. On the other side of this map plan is why our leapfrog strategy is so very important. It's because today, comparison regions are outpacing us in GDP growth, gross domestic product growth across all sectors. Regions with strong digital infrastructure consistently outperform the U.S. average in innovation and competitiveness. Digital infrastructure is a major driver of productivity and GDP growth. Our leapfrog strategy is not just to catch up, but to move ahead. Standing still means falling further behind. We also are advancing the Global Internet Hub cause in many other ways, such as by generating earned media, writing letters to members of the General Assembly, and placing op-ed pieces. We also created an online digital infrastructure and data center information hub. This resource center seeks to offer clear, accessible insights and information into the digital infrastructure ecosystem to better equip local leaders, stakeholders, and the public to engage with and help guide this very vital sector. You can check out the Resource Center at globalinternethub.org/resource center. We're also showcasing the positive economic ripple effects of data centers by creating short videos of executives and industry leaders in Virginia talking about the economic ripple effect throughout the economy. You can watch these 3 videos on our website under Beyond Data Centers. We also created the soul, which we call the soul of our global internet strategy, by attracting PCs for People to the mega region to serve the underserved. PCs for People is the nation's largest nonprofit refurbisher of end-of-life computers. The organization collects these computers at no cost to the donating businesses or organizations, then refurbishes them and installs the latest software. It then provides the renewed desktop systems to underserved residents and families for free and sells late model laptops for up to $150. In addition, PCs for People also provides tech support and computer training. The nonprofit recently opened a building on East Pembroke Avenue in the city of Hampton for its intake, data destruction, refurbishing, and distribution center, as well as a retail location, all of which it calls its mission market. The 32,000 square foot building held a grand opening in early April after spending more than a year retrofitting this former Save-A-Lot grocery store. The center will serve a 120-mile radius service area from the Richmond area all the way to Virginia Beach and Chesapeake. Please mark your calendars for Convergence 2026. This is our annual Mega Regional Leadership Conference, which will be held on Tuesday, November 17th, at the William & Mary Alumni House in Williamsburg. And also during Convergence, we'll have a not sure why it's not showing up. We'll also do something on the I-64 Innovation Corridor Awards. These award categories our Innovation Award, our Infrastructure Excellence Award, our Collaborator Award, and our Impact Award. So their deadline is July 15th. If you know anybody or organizations, individuals, or initiatives, please email us, and there's details about this on our website. Now let's turn to our main topic today, which is getting updates on the I-64 GAP project and the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel Expansion project. Both of these mega projects represent once-in-a-generation investment that will define how people and goods move throughout Virginia for the next 50 years. The I-64 GAP project, which is between Richmond and Williamsburg, has long been a notorious choke point. Since November 2023 groundbreaking, the $750 million project has been moving forward on 3 different segments, A, B, and C, which we'll hear about more in just a moment here. The widening project has been an initiative of RVA757 Connects, and we advocated for funding for this since the spring of 2022, when the General Assembly was considering funding various projects, and eventually agreed to fund much of this project. The Central Virginia Transportation Authority also put in $100 million for the project. At Convergence event in October 2022, then Virginia Secretary of Transportation, Chet Miller, credited RVA 757 Connects directly for its advocacy work. You can see there, he says the whole reason why this got funded is the work that we did. We'll also hear about the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel Expansion project. At $3.9 billion, HRBT Expansion is the largest highway construction project in Virginia's history. So let's hear from our speakers. Eric Thornton is the Richmond District Mega Projects Engineer with the Virginia Department of Transportation. And then after him will be Bradley Wiedeheim-Hammer, who is the Assistant Project Director for Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel Expansion Project, where he's responsible for the management and strategic guidance for the delivery of the complex design-build contract. Before I turn that over to them, just as a reminder, please use the chat function in the to ask any questions that you have, and then we'll get to those towards the end of the program. So now let me turn it over to Eric, so he can tell us more about what's happening with the I-64 GAP project.
Certainly. Appreciate it, Greg. And thank you for all you guys have done for getting this project going. It's groups like this, and I saw a lot of the sponsors that were pulled up in the slides who are heavily involved, as John had mentioned with Luckstone. So let me go ahead as I'm sharing my screen here. Let's see. Let me know when we can see that. Good to go, Greg?
Yes, good to go.
All right. All right. Well, I appreciate it. As Greg said, I'm Eric Thornton, the Richmond District Mega Projects Engineer. Currently, in my role, I'm overseeing a program in the Richmond District that's about over $1 billion in planning / constructing. I know that pales in comparison to what Bradley's about to talk about with the tunnel, but big nonetheless. And GAP is a major part of that and of our program. We're pretty proud of it to date. Before I go on to the presentation itself, this is just an aerial photo of the exit 211. Let's see if the laser pointer will work. Yeah. So over here, so you guys can get your bearings straight, this is where the projected Buc-ee's is going to go. But ultimately, it's a good shot of what's going on the GAP project, where you see a lot of the inside widening, at least for GAP A, has been completed. And then here's the Emmaus Church Road Bridge that ultimately we're replacing the existing, and new projects coming in there on the heels of this one with the diverging diamond. So we'll get into more of that, but jumping into it here. Ultimately, this is kind of an overview map of it. I'm going to go pretty quickly through some of the summary slides of the GAP. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are familiar with it. And we ultimately have about 3 pounds of projects to fit into 1 pound of presentations. So going to go quickly, but here is ultimately the Buc-ee's intersection that we just talked about. And the GAP project itself is comprised of 3 segments, A, B, and C. A started first, C second, and then finishing up here with segment B. Ultimately, A and B are in New Kent County, and then segment C is in James City County, but all in all is comprised of about 30 miles worth of widening here. Getting into the major items of work, we are ultimately in the final configuration constructing a new general purpose lane with 10-foot paved shoulders. So definitely a wider facility there to help kind of some of that beach traffic, as well as just incident management and just overall congestion along the corridor. But then also provides benefits for hurricane evacuations if something like that does start approaching the Hampton Roads area. So really, really critical in a network, as Greg mentioned, a choke point. I'm hopefully going to alleviate that with this project. Two other things I want to bring up here is the bridge widening and rehabilitation. That changed slightly across a couple of the segments. We'll get into that here in a second, but just be mindful of it. And then ultimately also the sound barrier walls in A and C. You may have seen in your commuting or travels that ultimately we're putting 2 of the 3 walls up right now on GAP A. Ultimately, they have a pretty cool dogwood and cardinal medallion on them that we think is actually pretty slick. And then ultimately this picture, actually traffic is driving on this bridge. This is westbound at Courthouse at 214 right now. I just wanted to kind of show you guys or have an older picture in there just to kind of see how the sausage is made, if you will. So that is a bridge that currently traffic is going on. That's one of the widenings. Jumping into kind of our sequence overview, this is from GAP A's, but ultimately it's very similar. There are some nuances between the different segments, but really starting with tree clearing and kind of progressing into where the meat of the work is in stage 2 here, where we're working in the median, installing the widening, as well as a lot of the drainage, ENS, which is erosion and sediment control for those who don't know, with traffic on the outside, right? And you have the barrier going through there. More or less, a lot of the projects are in this phase right now. And then we jump into stage 3, which is where we shift traffic to the inside and then get on the outside and do, more of our mill and fills with the asphalt and resurfacing, as well as ITS, which stands for Intelligent Transportation Systems. For those who don't know, noise barrier, overhead signs, etc. And lastly, getting into stage 4, which is kind of our resurfacing and making everything look pretty and kind of getting to final completion to where we ultimately hope that it looks something like this. And at least that's the vision in my head right now. And that's what we're working towards on the 3 segments. Jumping into the segment overview, we have segment A, B, and C, obviously, as stated. The thing to draw away from this slide here, finished completion dates are 7/30, 5/25, and 11/19 of those respective years. The way we worked with industry is we wanted to stagger and work from the bookends in, just helps have availability of crews and also ultimately make sure we're not completely on top of each other and synced up and phasing to where that creates some complications. The other thing is the bridge widenings. I mentioned that was a little bit different, and you see the 2 asterisks there between segment A and then segment B. Segment A, we are still doing the 2 widenings that I showed you at Courthouse, but ultimately we are decided as a good business decision and just ultimately a good use of taxpayer dollars is to incorporate in the Emmaus Church Road Bridge, the existing one. That was a structurally deficient bridge that was in need of some heavy maintenance. Don't worry, it's still safe to drive on being structurally deficient, but ultimately needed replacement. So we incorporated that into the project. As well as Gap B, instead of the widenings, we are actually through enhancement and or change order going through and replacing all 6 bridges that are incorporated into that project. So these were the original contract values. Really felt like we got good value with that, but ultimately they're a little bit higher than ultimately those contract values with a couple of the change orders that I just mentioned. So jumping into segment A breakdown, ultimately there's 2 unique milestones on it. Visualizing them, number 1 is on the western side of the project, and number 2 is on the eastern side of the project for the gap limits. Ultimately, that's just going to help offset some congestion a little bit earlier and also the transition into Gap B. Getting in the budget, we had about 66% expended already on Gap A, as well as 70% of the days. And just the discrepancy there, that doesn't mean we're late. It's just ultimately, and it can vary based on cost loading of the schedule, et cetera. So getting into the meat of it here, wanted to provide kind of a different perspective than maybe you've seen just driving through the corridor. Ultimately, this project is split into about 4 sub areas. We're in area 1. This is the far western side of the project. So you can kind of see that we've shifted into stage 3, and you kind of have the sound walls that are coming on either side here, and the sound wall will continue down here for a little ways. Ultimately, we're making good progress here. You should see us start switching traffic here by the end of the summer. I would expect all phases and all segments of it to be incorporated into stage 3, which is traffic on the inside and us focusing on the outside work. Just some stats that we found were probably interesting that you guys may want to hear as we kind of travel through the corridor here. We have 46 temporary traps and 4 basins that were on the project. So quite a few, but you see there's some here in the picture, but ultimately at the end of the day, we start filling those in as we get more and more completed. So you're starting to see a lot of fill slopes that are done at this point and traps filled in. All the jack and bore and pipelinings have been performed, as well as about 1,400 linear feet of trenched in pipe. So that's all been completed. And then ultimately giving you an idea, base mix for asphalt and our pavement structure is about 97% complete. So really a lot of the inside pavement work has been done. Just to give you a perspective of the magnitude of this job, about 104,000 tons of base mix, maybe a little bit more, are anticipated to be used for just Gap A alone. And perspective wise, all of Richmond District, the paving work that we have is about 500,000 tons. So just one layer for one segment is 1/5 of our total asphalt production in the district. So that's pretty wild to think about from that perspective, and kind of gives an idea of how big these GAP projects are and how much material is used. Also touch on the Emmaus replacement. We should start seeing the traffic shift over to the phase 1 bridge that was created, and in the next couple of weeks. And ultimately, we will replace the second half of that bridge. So that's a good milestone to be attacking here. And lastly, this is kind of going through area 4. We are actually doing a final shift in area 4, or at least in the stage 3 here tonight. So we will be advancing some more of that ultimately into stage 3. So a lot of progress on Gap A. Getting into Gap C breakdown, we got 3 milestones there, one of which was the park and ride. Some people on the call may have used at this point. It is open to the public. We also have number 2 and number 3, which are milestones that are on time and progressing nicely at this point. You'll see in the video the flyover, both western and eastern ends are looking good there and are pretty far along. Budget wise, just a couple statistics. 65.1% from an earnings perspective as of May 1st. And then ultimately, time perspective, 59%. So you see this one skewed the other way. Doesn't mean necessarily early, but it ultimately shows just good progress. So getting into the video. Ultimately, last summer, you guys traveling through may have thought we stopped on the project. To some extent, we did. We have a time of year restriction just for clearing. So ultimately, we could not clear until, or get back to clearing until August 1st. So I would say at that point, we were full go August 1st, 2025. So as you see us kind of navigating through here, you see a lot of work has happened, and it's only been, well, I guess at this point, a little less than a year that we've been full steam ahead from the construction side of Gap C. So they're doing really well there. Ultimately, you see it kind of as we travel through, the median is a little narrower. So you do have some tree clearing ultimately where we've had to clear cut the median. It's just the nature of the dimensioning, but where we could, we've tried to retain some of the trees there. So just kind of help the beauty of the corridor as we continue on through. Ultimately, some things to consider here is gave you some stats before, but ultimately 19 basins and 10 sediment traps, and this one in the temporary configuration have all been completed, and we're about 50% of the way through kind of some of our cement treated recycled asphalt. Some of those blacker, grayer areas, if you will, behind the barrier, that's where ultimately those are. Here, they're just more or less boxing out for the roadway right now. And I would say a pretty exciting milestone is we just started last week placing asphalt out here on Gap C. So that is obviously moving along quite nicely as well. And then we've completed a lot of the pipe work and ultimately box culvert work through here, which is an exciting thing just from a construction perspective to kind of get out of the soil and whatnot. And so here you can see the wrap I was talking about for the project. And last thing I kind of want to share with this one is ultimately 6 Mount Zion Bridge widening is coming along well. We anticipate placing girders here later this month. And ultimately, the gas line, our gas company is on the project and relocating a gas line. So hopefully we'll get that opened up here in a couple months' time. Moving on here to Gap B, we have one unique milestone here. This one is ultimately the early opening of 3 lanes, about 5 miles. And to get your bearings straight, that's about from 220 to about the 215 or the Gap A limits traveling westbound. So that'd probably be one of the last, I guess, major choke points there with having the ramps and merging traffic and whatnot. So that'll be nice to get open as well. Obviously, Gap A will be, or hopefully be open before that 2028 time period. The contract and just some specifics here, 17.4% has been expended to date and 31% has been time-wise expended to date. And so the disparity there chalked up to kind of what I talked about before, but ultimately too, there were some complexities with environmental permitting that were planned. And so we expect that those numbers to kind of join together here in short order. So we'll be quicker on this one. It's a lot of a similar vibe. You see it's a much earlier project in the onset here. We've just started construction, doing some clearing in some areas really to kind of start attacking the milestone. But we too are hit on this one by a time of year restriction for clearing. So clearing has halted until August 1st, but ultimately where we can work, we are ultimately putting in environmental controls, basins, traps, whatnot, to ready for the widening work that's going to go. Also, we're looking for, we should in short order be able to get into some of those areas that are roped off there that you can kind of see. We should be getting an Army Corps of Engineer permit here soon to be able to start entering into those areas. So the Gap B is going very well. One of the things I'll note is that over here you can kind of see darker pavement compared to westbound. The one thing that the contractor or design build team elected to do was ultimately pave the existing roadway first, at least in the intermediate course. They will come back and top it, but that should provide a really nice ride through the summer months and through the rest of the course of the Gap projects as well. So they will get to the rest of it. They've just finished eastbound, I believe, and that was a couple nights ago, and are switching around to go westbound, and then they're doing the barrier shift as they go. So we're going to stop here on this one. It's a lot of rinse and repeat. So talked about this from a Gap B status slide. A lot of these we're obviously doing bridge replacements versus bridge widenings. The design is complete for both roadway and bridge, which is a really nice milestone. Like I said, we're waiting on one permit to come in, but we have most of the other ones. So we're really getting on the precipice here of fully open and trying to knock it out. And then lastly, field update, as I said, the eastbound resurfacing and barrier installation is kind of all happening concurrently as we progress through the project. And then I think Greg said we'll hold questions till the end. So I'll leave you with 3 pictures from the perceived gaps. You got Gap A right here. It's a little bit older, but I thought it was a cool picture because you have this in stage 3, this is in stage 1, but now this is all by the 2 on top of the 205 bridge, exit 205 bridge. So you can see if you travel through there, everybody switched to the inside now. This is Gap C, where I talk about the wrap placement, just in process of doing that. And then ultimately over here is Gap B, where they're doing some of the resurfacing of the existing main line. And then they'll shift the barrier over here, traffic over here, and then ultimately when they tie in, they'll tie into this joint right there for the project. So that's the update on the Gap one, and I appreciate the time.
Wow, great. That's a lot of information, a lot to digest for those who drive that and stuff on a regular basis. Thank you so much, Eric. Now we'll turn it over to Bradley. Go ahead and share the screen and let us know about HRBT.
All right, good afternoon. Hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Greg. So moving a little bit east down 64 into Hampton Roads, you get to the HRBT. I usually start these presentations by polling the audience. I'm going to try and leverage some technology here. So you should have a react button in Zoom, but by vote, who has ever been stuck in traffic at the HRBT? Okay, good. See some votes. I think if you hit it aggressively, it still only counts as one vote. But most everyone's been stuck in traffic HRBT. So project that's been needed for some time. We're making good progress on it, and we'll jump through that. So just looking at our region, most of you should be familiar with the region, but home to 1.8 million residents. We're just past Memorial Day here, so we get a lot more visitors visiting our beaches and other areas. Obviously home to the largest naval base in the world, the Virginia port, the deepest channel on the East Coast for the port. So a lot of significant things in our region, and this project is really the gateway to some of those items. The project is more than just a tunnel. The tunnel gets a lot of the attention. We're really a 10-mile corridor from Hampton through Norfolk. So we're expanding that 10-mile corridor from the existing 2 lanes in each direction to 4 lanes in each direction. 2 lanes will be general purpose lanes. 2 lanes will be managed lanes in each direction. We're also rehabilitating and widening 20 bridges and completely replacing 5 bridges. So the goals of the project, obviously, for increased capacity, reduce congestion, and most importantly, enhance that travel time reliability for that trip across the tunnel. So this is not a live look at traffic. This is just a simulation. This shows the existing corridor on the top, and then the bottom is the expanded facility. So again, the right 2 lanes are the general purpose lanes. The left 2 lanes are the managed lanes. This is starting on our Hampton side, going across the harbor towards the tunnel. You can see we're completely replacing the 2 existing bridges. The 2 new tunnels here on the right become the eastbound direction. The 2 existing tunnels get reversed to be the westbound direction. And then coming out here on our Norfolk side towards Willoughby, again, we're completely replacing the 2 existing bridges with our 8-lane structure across and connecting onto land in Willoughby, where we carry this typical section all the way through the corridor through Norfolk. This kind of gives you a high-level look at what the capacity improvements are. Quick overview. Again, this is a design-build project. Greg mentioned $3.9 billion. We awarded the contract back in 2019. The funding on the project is pretty unique, especially for a project of this size. But most of the funding, 92%, comes from HRTAC, the Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission, who does collect a portion of our sales and fuel taxes to put towards large projects in this area. So really that was the key to unlocking this project. It's been discussed for really decades, but that was the funding that really enabled the project to get off the ground. The significance of the 8% state and federal, similar, Eric had mentioned some of the decisions to completely replace bridges. We could have widened some of our bridges, but they are and nearing the end of their useful life. So the state decided to actually fund those complete replacements of those bridges. So that's the significance of the other 8% of the funding. So this project, our 10 miles, is part of the larger Hampton Roads Express Lane network, which will be a 45-mile continuous network of express lanes. So again, there'll always be the general purpose lanes, which are free for travel, and then the express lanes can be used for a single rider can use their Easy Pass to pay the toll, or HOV users or Hot 2 can use the Flex Pass to also have a free ride through there. So again, we're the green segment here in the middle, which is part of our 45-mile network. that is in various stages. The bottom part there is already online, and then the top parts will be coming online along with the HRBT project. Did want to kind of start with the history of tunneling in Hampton roads. So this area is we have the largest collection of immersed tube tunnels in the world, currently 10. So this is how we've built all of our tunnels prior to the HRBT, where we cast the elements offsite, brought them to the area, dug a trench, lowered them, backfilled them. So again, all of our existing tunnels have been built utilizing immersed tube technology. This is really what that looks like. On the left is our Midtown Tunnel, which is our newest tunnel that was built in the area. These segments are cast offsite. To the left, this was up in Sparrows Point, Maryland. To the right was the original HRBT. Those are actually cast in Texas. So once they're brought to the site and lowered, but you can start to see some of the challenges in just the amount of space that it takes to cast these. The Midtown Tunnel was built in 11 segments. That casting yard could only fit 6 elements at a time. So there's just a time element to cast, get them out, and do the second batch. So to overcome some of those challenges, not just the elements and the impacts of the channel as you're trying to immerse them, the HRBT is actually using a tunnel boring machine. So it's the first time in Virginia that this has been used. And then the size of our machine at 46-foot diameter is the second largest TBM that's been utilized in North America, and only the third bored tunnel for vehicles, the first being Seattle and the second being Port of Miami. Again, the main advantage is being able to work under the channel without impacting the waterway and all those ship movements. So the machine was actually built in Hampton, Germany. They supply most of the TBMs worldwide for these large projects. The picture on screen actually was the machine in Germany. It was fully assembled and commissioned before being disassembled and sent to the United States here on our project for use. This gives just a snapshot of what the tunneling process looks like. So the tunnel is actually made up of concrete segments that create rings. So on the right, you can see the individual rings that are made up of 9 segments. Ahead of it is the shield and the cutter head of the machine. So at the far left is the cutter head that spins around, disturbs the material and sends it back into the machine. You can see here in the middle the hydraulic rams that actually push against the segment before it. So the way that the machine advances is it'll build a ring, push off that ring, retract those arms, and then build another ring and push off of that. So just in general, that's how the machine advances and how the tunnel is built behind it. So everything on the right, that shell of the tunnel is exposed to the earth. Everything ahead within that shield, the shield is exposed to the earth. So this is what the interior of the tunnel looks like. So again, the TBM kind of leaves us just a concrete tube in the ground. This is how we fill up that tube. You can see we fill in the bottom with ballast to get us up to our roadway level. You'll see on the left, this is one of the important features of the new tunnel. There's actually an egress corridor. So there's evenly spaced doors throughout the tunnel that in the event of any type of emergency, you can get into that egress corridor to make your way to the either end of the tunnels and get back up to land. And then above that corridor is the pressurization plenum. So clean air is pressurized in there. So what that does is provides a pressurized environment in that egress corridor that even with the door open, it would push the air out and keep any of the smoke-filled air, other elements from getting inside of the tunnel. So the tunneling started back in 2023 when we commenced our mining for the first tunnel. You can see in this picture, the bottom, that's our segment quay. So that's where all of our individual segments were delivered that ultimately make up each of those individual rings. So this is a video of our first breakthrough. You may have seen this going around, but this was a big day on the project. It marked that 1-year evolution of mining and the breakthrough of Virginia's first bored tunnel. So we do use slurry in the mining process. That slurry is the first thing you see that comes out. So again, this was a big day on the project, big milestone for us. So from there, kind of fast forward another year, took about 6 months to actually turn the machine around. We did a U-turn and started mining back the other way to complete the second tunnel. So in just under a year, we completed the second mine, which completed both bored tunnels. So huge milestone for the project. Obviously, one of the large risk elements on the project, getting that machine underground and through with no issues. So since then, Mary, the TBM, again, we named her Mary. Mary Jackson, depicted in the movie Hidden Figures, so one of our local mathematicians, actually named from one of our local schools. We had a contest out, so they actually named the machine Mary. But once Mary was done with the mining process, she then was disassembled. So she's now fully disassembled and off of the project. So Mary, very important role in our project, but has done all her work. So going through the progress, I'll go through these relatively quickly. I'll add a little bit more presentation to Eric's 1 pound bag here. So starting with our north trestle on the Hampton side, you can see some of the progress. On the right is our eastbound trestle that we actually opened to traffic back in 2024. This picture does a good job of depicting some of the challenges that we have on the project. You can see the lighter color are our new structures and how they interact with our existing bridges. So really we could only build those bridges out partially before we came into conflict with the existing bridge. So on the eastbound side, we moved the eastbound lanes over so we could demo the existing. And you can see the westbound side, we are moving to open that structure actually to traffic later this year, probably in the early fall timeframe. So getting traffic onto that new structure will allow us again to demo the old structure and complete those bridges and connect them to land there on the Hampton side. Looking at our North Island progress, again, this is where that breakthrough happened in the video and where we turned the machine around. Really the big significant activity here is you can see some of the buildings taking shape over top of those cells. So those buildings will actually support our switchgear, the electrical equipment that runs the tunnels. So big focus on the project now is now going vertical above where some of the initial works took place underground. South Island, similarly, we are going vertical with building construction. You can see in the cells, the top portion actually is where the machine broke through and came out. So that is still open where we had to remove the machine. And we are now just starting to work on the roadway level to get that even with the other side next to it. So good progress on our South Island. South Marine Trestle, again, we did shift our eastbound traffic. This is a very similar story to the North Trestle. You can see we've built as much of that structure as we can before it comes into conflict with the existing structure. So with some of the traffic moved around, we can now demolish those structures. And at the top, you can see all the various tie-ins to the existing tunnel. On the left is where the main bridge will be coming out of the new tunnels, and to the right are all the we call them the fingers that will go into the existing tunnels. So a lot of very precise planning on those traffic shifts to be able to build the new bridges under existing traffic. On our landside project, our landside progress, kind of similar to what Eric had mentioned, we're building the roadway in phases. On the eastbound, we've actually finished the outside widening, so we've shifted all the traffic to the right on our bridges and road work, and now working on the median side. Our westbound is actually to the right on these pictures, whereas eastbound we widen to the right towards what we call the Navy side there on the left. The westbound actually gets widened towards the median. So Again, opening up that median with the eastbound work allows us to progress the westbound work. Later this summer, actually, we should start shifting some of the westbound traffic towards the median so that we can complete the outside widening. So a lot of progress going on through this corridor. If you've driven through recently, you can just see the amount of work going on with the cranes in the air. Moving on to our tunnel work, again, really mining the tunnels was half the battle. We now have to completely outfit those tunnels. So this shows the egress corridor walls going up. We talked about the egress corridor, and then some of the other work going on within the tunnels. The second to the right, you can see some of the fireproofing board going up on the outside of the tunnel. That's a board that would protect the tunnel in the event of a fire, protect the concrete shell. So that'll go over all the exposed surfaces in the tunnel. The egress corridor on the right and some of the utilities going through there. So again, a lot of work right now to completely outfit those tunnels. After these elements, we'll also have all the traffic elements, the ventilation, the lighting, the ITS, all the systems going into the tunnel. So a lot of work left to do on that part of the project. We're moving towards the 2027 completion date. So between the landside work and the tunnel work, a lot of work to do there. So this summer will be a big summer for us to progress a lot of the landside work to get there so we can complete the major civil work, so we can commission a lot of these systems that'll allow us to completely open the facilities. A couple ways to connect on the project, stay engaged in what we're doing. Sign up for our newsletters. We do put out weekly lane closure impacts. At the picture here, we do have a welcome center in Norfolk. You can see on our website when we have various open houses to come and visit us, see some of our artifacts on the project, learn about the progress. We have a model of Mary the TBM. We have our own version of a love sign. A lot of people like to get their picture taken in front of that. So again, a lot of ways to stay engaged on the project and keep up with what we're doing here for the next year to complete out this project. So that's what I have, and welcome any questions that we may have. So turn it back over to you, Greg. Hey, Greg, you're on mute.
That was really fascinating. I was telling my colleague Adair here during the presentation just how fascinating that you could bore under the water like that and create the tunnel using that Mary contraption. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, real quick for both of you, can you tell us what was the most challenging aspects or has been the most challenging aspects for it? And Brad, when you have a chance, if you could stop sharing the screen, then I can put the screen up to be great. But can you both just give us a thought about the most challenging aspects or the biggest challenges that you saw in these two projects?
Yeah, I'll go first. It's really maintaining traffic has been a challenge. We made a commitment early on to maintain those 2 lanes in each direction at all times through the project. Obviously, we do have nighttime lane closures, but you can see on the trestles, we actually spent a lot of time building temporary bridges to get outside of the alignment of where the permanent bridges will be. So especially on those bridge structures on the water, a lot of choreography and planning to keep 2 lanes of traffic alive while we're rebuilding those bridges. That's been one of the bigger challenges.
Yeah, and I'll jump in from my perspective. I mean, MOT is always a major challenge. You're having to deal with the public there, as Bradley said, just driving through, where it's not always anticipated how they're going to move and what's going on. So that is always a challenge in kind of the transportation projects. So I'll second that, and I'll add a kind of another one, at least coordination with Bradley. I'm sure has the same thing, but from a GAP perspective, having 3 large projects. Fortunately, we have 2 very good design build teams out there. We have Shirley Dewberry that is ultimately a part of GAP A and B, and then a joint venture, Wagman, JMT, and Alan Myers out on GAP C that have all been really great, but one of the really difficult things is you got big projects right on top of each other. So ultimately, I would say kind of coordination and communication is really challenging, making sure that the public doesn't drive by and see 3 different projects and see 3 different things going on, but they look at it as one uniform project, just driving to get the work done. So I would say coordination and communication is one of the toughest challenges, as it is with any line of work.
Bradley, we got a couple questions for you. One is Chris thought that the Mary might be disassembled and then sent to the Chesapeake Bay Bridge tunnel to bore a second tube there. Is that correct, or was Mary scrapped?
Nope.
Do you have any knowledge about that?
Yep, nope. So Mary came out the other end, disassembled. She's actually on her way back to Germany to Heron Connect, who built her. So Heron Connect will actually salvage parts of it that they can. So not going to CVT. In reality, CVT also is, they've bored their tunnel. They finished a little bit after us, but these 2 machines are very different. While we're variable density, we use slurry. Their machine, just because of the geotechnical aspects of where they're at, are very different. That their machine is not a slurry machine, so different machines for different places, even though we're in the vicinity. But nope, Mary is back in Germany again. They're gonna refresh parts that they can and salvage what they can, but her work in the U.S. is done.
Well, let's ask the number one question that we seem to get asked all the time is what about Buc-ee's? What's happening with the Buc-ee's location? And I'm going to ask John Moyer, who is a district supervisor from New Kent County, to unmute himself and help us answer that question.
Thank you, Greg. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I want to give appreciation to VDOT and their crews, and hopefully they can keep staying safe as they've been in the past few years. But the Buc-ee's has given us assurance that sometime in the second half of 29, after the completion of, I believe that is Section B, will be done, they will be up and running. And so that's what we can tell you about that.
Great. Okay. Any thoughts, Eric, on that? Do you know any?
Yeah, we have the exit 211, which is kind of where circled that area where they're coming in. Ultimately, that bridge is currently, the existing bridge is being constructed now. That will open up with the Gap A project, and then currently out to advertisement right now or in procurement. So I can't say too much, but that the timeline that Mr. Moyer brought out was correct, and that sometime in the back half, the later half of 2029, Buc-ee's will be around.
Let me ask you all before we switch over. Can you give me a sense of just a quick summary, a recap of when, first, Eric, when are the various segments on the gap are supposed to be completed? And then Bradley, when are the ones for the HRBT supposed to be completed?
Yeah. So Gap A is supposed to be completed in July of 2027. And then ultimately we fast forward to the middle to end of November of 2027 for Gap C. So those are the 2 bookends there. And then ultimately Gap B is a little bit longer. It goes to the spring of 2029. Just ultimately some of the lessons learned, some of the complexities with some of the environmental permitting that Gap B presented. We needed to give a little bit more time there, but ultimately wanted to stagger those. So I would say the finished completion date for Gap B more specifically is in May of 2029.
All right, Bradley.
And yep, HRBT. So we have a fixed completion date in late 2027. We'll have traffic in there preceding that. The timing does get complicated with the completion of the express lane network, as long as some of the commissioning that we have to do to be able to put traffic actually in the tunnels. So Again, sometime in 2027, we do plan to be open for service on the roadway.
So we'll have for both projects, there's the proverbial, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh,
Absolutely. We are not short on tunnel puns on this project. Trust me.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you. Let's move on. I just want to let you know what's happening next. Just a reminder, if you have any, want to know what our initiatives are, go to our website, RVA757Connects.com. Also, a reminder that this recording, and any of our recordings for that matter, are available on our website. I'll send out an email alert later this afternoon when it's available and stuff. But again, all of our webinars that we've had for the last 4 years are available on our website. Reminder that September 2nd at noon will be our next Innovation Spotlight webinar. We'll let you know about that in mid-August. Thank you again to both Eric and to Bradley for putting this presentation together. It was fascinating, good information, information that everyone, I'm sure, will be tickled to get to know more about in the next year or so. Then also, thank you to Luck Real Estate Ventures and to John Riley for your support. We appreciate that as well. And thank you again to everyone for joining us today. We will see you in September.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.